on the way I vibe when I walk into the room. Wind blows underneath the soles of my brand new pair of shoes. I got the attention, I'm on a mission. No sweat in the
So who really is Roman Young? An agent for over 2 decades, Roman has not only worked with, but also discovered some of the top model talent in the world. Women you've seen in shows, commercials, and magazines have trusted in him to do his best and steer their careers into the right path. Working with elite women and as a director for Wilhelmina before transitioning into his own agency as an ever-important mother agent. Today, we catch up with him to see what he's been up to and how he's helping to transform the ever-evolving industry into something even better.
And this is my world now. This is my world now. And this is my world now. And this is my world now. And this is my world now. This is my world now.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you...
No, I'm recording. Ugh. I put on jeans because of this.
I put on a collared shirt because of this.
This is the first time I put on pants in 3 months.
Yeah, I'm still wearing shorts, so
It feels weird. It feels so weird.
I know it's a different world, right?
Yeah, it's not. I don't know if he's gonna go back to normal soon, but please, he better, because I miss the outdoors.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice I went camping this past week, so it was so cool. It was good just to like forget about everything for a bit.
Where did you go?
We went to Big Bear.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a friend's birthday, so all of us had quarantined for quite a while, and so I think it was like perfect, and it was just a good time to see people, and we all kind of trusted each other, so I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Like that's what I'm actually appreciating about LA, that I'm seeing all these people in LA like going around and doing things. And
Yeah, it's a big difference.
it's a big difference because I'm in the middle of Manhattan. No matter where I go, I'm not distant to anything. There's people, the moment you walk out of the door, I'm next to people. So it's very hard to like distance yourself when everyone's all the time there. Meantime, I'm watching my friends in LA like tanning on their rooftops and having a good time. I'm just like, perhaps the move is necessary very soon, because if that happens again, I'm not.
Yeah, the quality of life is completely different because here, we have yards, we have, patios, we have space. So even if I don't even really need to leave my house. It's a 2-story house, with a yard. Like I don't have to leave.
Yeah, and you can still be outside and like, taste air.
Yeah. And like, I was on my patio, like laying out, getting a tan, listening to music, playing with the dogs. And like, I didn't even really need to leave.
Damn. I'm actually not, and this is serious talk. I'm actually considering moving to LA. Like when
I'm a fan. For years I wasn't because of work. I thought that New York was the epicenter of everything for fashion. And now with technology, that's really changed everything. I think maybe in the 90s it wasn't possible, in the early 2000s, but now, it's 2020. And things like this, like Zoom and travel, and, there's so many possibilities now. You don't have to be so rigid.
even we're talking about, I'm not exactly a fashion photographer, so I don't think that's what's keeping me here. I just always felt like to grow a career, I needed to be here. But at this point, I feel comfortable enough that if I lived in LA, I'll probably be able to accomplish just as much.
Yeah, but I think you're still a fashion photographer. I mean, you might not see yourself that way, but you shoot fashion models. You shoot in a commercial, fashion-y way. So I think what's great about New York is you have immediate access to a wider range of talent,
Absolutely.
editorial talent, commercial talent. But I think also the benefits of LA is there's a lot of commercial talent. So, and more editorial talent.
But what I'm seeing from a lot of the girls and a lot of the girls that I work with here, they're all kind of making the LA move now. And if it's not like even permanent, they're there a lot. And that's what I'm just kind of like pushing me towards that way, that even if they don't live there, they travel there often enough that I'll be still able to work with the same girls if necessary. Plus, I have enough
Yeah,
friends
no,
for me to work.
it's the quality of life. You can't beat it. You know, the weather is amazing.
Yeah.
The amount of space you get, the bang for your buck for, you know, any kind of place that you buy or rent it's, you know, it's hard to beat.
I love my apartment. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, you have a kick-ass apartment.
Yeah, we talked about this. But I'm looking at what I'm paying for this apartment, and in LA, I can get like a three-bedroom house. And I'm
Yeah.
like I can literally have like an e-com studio set up, ready to go, and I can have a YouTube studio set up, ready to go, and my bedroom, and pay the exact same amount. And I'm kind of like,
And wait, and enough money to buy a plane ticket to fly to New York if you need to.
yeah. So I don't know. It's been in my head for a long time, but like after this, I'm seriously considering probably this will be my last apartment in the city, at least for a little bit. I mean, I've been here 18 years at this point, so I feel like it's time to like see something new, see how it
Yeah,
was.
I mean, yeah, for me, it was the same, like 20 years. New York will always have a very special place in my heart, but I think that there's a time that, you know, to evolve or, you know, or to what you know, what you need out of your life. And for me, New York
Yeah,
just didn't have it anymore. I
yeah.
still love New York. I still love visiting. I still love going there. Yeah, they still have, you know, all of my friends there, but you know, I prefer LA.
Let me go through our questions real quick. I'm glad we actually end up making this happen because we've talked about this interview for so long.
I
And
know it's
time we
good.
meet
Now,
up, we start talking shit, and it never actually happens. So it's good that we actually both like now when there's literally nothing else to do, we finally making it happen. Although it's not like obviously like next to each other still. How do you actually? How does one decide to become an agent? Like, how do you even get to that point? Because I know you were an agent for a long time, but like, what were you before that? How did you decide like this is the route you're gonna take, etc.?
I was growing up in Hawaii in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean on a rock, basically.
Ah,
And back then, CNN used to have a show called, you know, Style with Elsa Clench. And then
okay,
there was, you know, Jeannie Becker had her show from Canada, and there was Fashion File, and there were all these TV shows, and which just showed the collections, but they didn't really say much about models.
okay.
Um, and I would watch this show, and I just thought it was the most amazing thing. So far removed from what I was doing, you know, as a student in Hawaii, and I just religiously recorded these shows. And at the time, Elle magazine would produce a special issue called Top Model,
Okay.
and they would make this magazine devoted just to models. And I started to collect that and read that. And the more that I got into it, the more I realized that this was an actual job. And I was actually lucky enough to go to a school, a private school with two girls who were professional models in my high school. And one of them was with Ford Models.
Hmm.
And she got scouted and signed and flown to New York. And I would ask her questions about it, and she would tell me what her life was like. And I just thought it sounded cool. So when it came time to graduate, you know, I went to college. I figured, you know, what could I do for my internship? And I looked at the Princeton Guide to the Top 100 Internships in America, and they had one for elite models.
Okay.
So I sent my resume there, snail mail, you know, waited for a response, waited for them to call me.
How long
Uh,
was that?
how long ago?
Yeah,
That was
no,
in the,
how long? How long? Because like back then, you send mail, right? Like you send a letter.
oh my God, yeah. I mean, to hear back from Elite, it took like a few weeks, like maybe 3 weeks. I mean, it took forever to hear back. It wasn't like an email that you could just get an answer right away.
Different times, yeah.
Yeah, completely different times. And so I you know, didn't hear anything, so I wasn't putting much stock in it. Um, weirdly, they did call me back, but then told me that they needed someone with graphic design experience, and I didn't have that. So they said, "Okay, thanks, sorry. You know, we're not interested." So I was a little bit disheartened, but I just figured, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to New York and then go back. So I transferred schools. I transferred into FIT, and I sent another cover letter and got a response from someone else in the company for the Elite Model Look contest. And the director of that worldwide contest called me in for an interview, and she offered me the job right there as an
Who
intern.
was that?
Her name was Kathy Gould.
Okay. Because I
And
know, was it Brunella doing that for a while?
Yeah, I think Brunello was responsible for the Italian elite model look.
Okay.
Kathy was responsible for the North American elite model look. So she handled all of Canada and the USA.
Okay.
And yeah, so I worked with her on that. And then I got to, see from a distance. I wasn't on the booking table. I wasn't working with the agents. I was upstairs on the second floor on the outside, kind of looking in, and I would interact with the agents every once in a while. But what the contest gave me was direct access to John Casablancas, who at the time was running the company and the big boss. And, and he was famous. It was the 90s. Everyone knew who he was. And I got to spend some time with him. And in one of the meetings, he liked what I was saying and asked me if I wanted to work at the agency and offered me a job on the spot.
And the
Yeah,
rest
but back then, I think I only got paid like $17,000 a year. It's crazy.
was that enough at the time though?
No, I still had a job. I was working for the coffee shop in Union Square in Luna Park. It was like a cafe that closed recently, but it was like the it spot for like models, actors, people. And I lied and said that I had experience as a waiter, and I didn't. But because they knew that I worked at Elite, they hired me. So I had to learn on the job, which was crazy. But I did it, and that actually paid for my food, and I had free meals at the restaurant. And then on the weekends, I would squeeze in another shift for Urban Outfitters. So I had like 3 jobs.
Beautiful. I mean, I kind of almost feel like when you come into the city, you kind of have to in the beginning to like get yourself somewhere to start. Because even for me to come to New York, I did pretty much the same thing. I was a cook in the morning at a restaurant. It's like Middle America restaurant. It's called Bob Evans. So I was cooking in the morning.
Yeah, I know it.
You know Bob Evans? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I was a cook on the line every single morning there. Then I'll leave at 3. I'll go to my gym at 3:30 to 4:30. I'll change and I'll go and wait tables for 4 hours. And then for the last 3 hours of the day, I'll actually buzz the tables as well because there was no more shifts for waiters, but I'll take the busboy shift so I can make extra money. I saved all I could so I can move to New York so I can live here because that was a dream, like that was like everything I've ever wanted was New York City.
Wait, so did you work in a restaurant when you got to New York City?
When I first got here, I worked at everything. Literally, like, because I came with a few $1,000s that paid for like first month security and a couple of weeks worth of food. And the first place that got hired was Patsy Pizzeria on 14th Street. And
no way. Yeah.
I was speaking of phone calls and like Patsy's Pizzeria, how may I help you? I got fired really quickly though, because I had an attitude on the phone, so they didn't like me. And then I worked with Cipriani for a little bit too as a waiter, like carrying the big trays like celebrities.
Yeah.
Parties like the 42nd Street one. I got fired off of that one pretty quick too.
It's so funny. I think working in a restaurant really teaches you how to deal with like stressful, crazy people, like the chefs or the managers. I mean, working at a restaurant in New York is crazy. Like when I got there, I mean, I would leave. I would work at Elite until about 5, and the setup, the shift would start at 4:30 at the restaurant. So I would pay another server to do the setup for me, and I'd give him extra tips so I could be late. And I explained to the manager that I was working in an office job and had to run it was literally from 23rd to 14th Street off of Park Avenue. So I just run down Park Avenue and like do the quick change into my outfit and then work until 2 in the morning or, 3 in the morning. Yeah, it's all part and parcel. I think everything we go through, that's part of the New York experience, from working in restaurants to going to the gym to working in nightlife. It's all part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And eventually we all land in fashion. I mean, and also getting fired is a good life lesson.
Oh yeah, I got fired so many times I can't even count. I don't think I've ever quit a job. I think I just got fired from everywhere.
I got fired from, I was working in a retail job. I used to work at Banana Republic in Hawaii. And I got recruited to work at Emporio Armani. They asked me to come in for an interview. I did it. I got the job. I got 2 great Armani suits. It was the perks were great for working at Emporio. And there was some slow times, and it wasn't as busy as like a retail store like Banana Republic or the Gap. It was a lot slower and a lot more celebrities. So one day I was just killing time, behind the register, and I was looking at the client list, and I saw Jackie Onassis in the client database.
Okay.
And so I was looking at her file, just, out of curiosity, like, oh, what did she buy? And, what was there? And, I was looking up different celebrities, and the manager called me in and literally fired me.
How do we
And
even
so
know
like,
you're looking at it?
yeah, I didn't know that they knew, but they could see. I think maybe someone from headquarters saw me looking at it, and then they asked me about it. And I'm like, yeah, I was looking at it, and they're like, you know, you can't do that. It's just a big no-no.
Wow. Okay. And then so like you went to Elite, and then how did you end up at Wilhelmina? Because you were there for pretty much a decade, right? Like
Yeah, I
quite.
think actually I think it was 7 years.
Okay.
7 years, yeah. I mean, I think the longest time frame, yeah, because I was at Women for a while and Elite for a while. Yeah, I think it was Wilhelmina was something that you know, at the time that I went to Wilhelmina, I was pretty much done with being an agent. I had uh, just, you know, you know this better than anyone. There are a lot of crazy people in our business, and back
Yeah.
then there were even more of them, and they were unchecked with their drug problems or their behavior or how they spoke with people. I mean, it was an HR nightmare. So after a while, I just decided it was time for me to do something different, and I took a break, and I was doing some casting and working on different casting projects and just trying to figure out what I wanted to do next.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, Kevin Apana, who works at IMG, really urged me to come in to talk to Wilhelmina. And Wilhelmina at the time was considered, you know, one of the worst, if not the worst, agency in New York on the women's side. And they were financially successful and a powerhouse with, you know, catalogs and, you know, their men's division, but their women's division had just died many years ago.
Yeah.
So they had me come in, I met with them, and they gave me the pitch. And, you know, it was Sean Patterson, who was the president at the time, who basically told me, look, if you come here and you're worried, I just want to let you know that you can't fall off the floor.
Damn.
So it made me laugh. I'm like, okay, I get it. So yeah, they offered me a great salary. They offered me, you know, a great opportunity. And I thought, you know, at that point, I didn't care what other people thought of me or my position in the industry. I did have a lot of people tell me I was making a mistake, that it was career suicide. And I thought, well, I don't really care about my career anymore, so I don't care. Got there and I saw how bleak it looked when I arrived and thought, okay, I'm just going to get to work and start scouting and shaping it in the way that I thought that it could make a difference.
Yeah. Well, you made a difference. Quite.
I mean, I like to think so. I mean, I think, you know, all that blood, sweat, and, you know, tears that went into it, and the great team of people that I worked with, and was able to build an amazing team. But yeah, I think that we took it from something that was at the bottom to something that was very well respected with, you know, Victoria's Secret models, Vogue models, Sports Illustrated models. I mean, we had everything across the board, and we turned a profit and made the company, you know, quite successful on the women's side, and then we're able to sort of catch up to the men's division.
When we met was how long was it after you left? Because you, first of all, you were a director there for a little bit, or were you the director the entire time?
Yeah, no, I was a director there. You know, different types of directors at different times.
Yeah, you have multiple
Eventually,
divisions. Yeah.
yeah, like the women's division, and then there was a change in leadership. There was, you know, Sean departed the company. The investors asked me to be an acting president of Wilhelmina, and so I did that, and I stepped into a president's role, which was great. It was great, you know, training, and you know, I learned a lot, but it wasn't my passion. I mean, just constantly putting out fires all day for a multi-million-dollar company was a lot of work. I mean, I think I got gray hairs because of that time frame, and it also just kind of burnt me out, because I'd been doing so much, and you know, and there's so many plates spinning that you just don't sleep. I was stressed out. I lost a lot of weight because I was constantly focused on work.
And like, I met you shortly after you left, right? Like he wasn't.
Yeah, I think it was. I left, and then I went to my home in Miami, and I was trying to just take a break from New York for a while. And someone suggested, yeah, meeting. You know, that there was a new agency coming, and it was related to Pier 59, and just, you know, to take the meeting. And I was very upfront. I'm like, I'm not interested, but, you know, I'm happy if I'm in New York to go up there and say hello.
So,
But you know, to get a tour of what they were thinking. Ultimately, this was going to be industry models.
yeah.
And yeah, I met Federico.
Okay. I remember it because it was like I think you were you were there like after hours, like after we were like done working. But many days, because like I didn't really have a good computer at home, so I'll stay after the day was over. So I just started shooting at the time, so it was kind of like I wanted to like edit my photos while I could on like a big screen because I didn't have that at home. And I remember you and Federico walking behind me. He made like some funny comment about my photo because I was just like retouching stuff, and that's when we met. That was the first time we actually got to
Yeah, and I
talk.
remember because he wanted you to show me the website or something that you were working on for the studio,
Yeah,
and wanted me to give an opinion on your work right away. I was like, he put me on the spot, and I thought like, oh my god, like this is so awkward.
I remember that. Now, I was funny because I was like, I think everyone else was gone. I think it was just me in the whole office, and you just guys came from behind me, and I was just working on my photos. For which I actually think like that me staying there to work on my photos essentially was one of the reasons that let me go because they hated it that I was like editing my stuff. Uh, on
It's so crazy, right? It's so crazy. Like you love it, you have a passion for it, you're actually there doing what you love, and in a studio, of all things.
It wasn't even him. It was a lot of the people there that had the problem with me doing it. So I'll never blame him. Him and I still have a good relationship. I think he made the right business decision because I would have done the same thing. But yes, for photography, fashion studio, to let a guy who's working on photography and fashion, to let him go because of it, it just sounded very, I don't know, interesting to me. But look,
Yeah, it just seemed like a little bit, you know, that sometimes as a boss you have to be mindful of what the politics are, the internal politics, and like shut it down in an office. I mean, I've been there as a boss running a company that you can't let all these little things. If not, you end up losing great employees like you.
yeah, well, look, in the end of the day, like I know I'm the author of my own demise in there. Like I could have done things differently that would have prevented that from happening. But when you're so obsessed, like I was with photography, like from the first time I shot, that's all I can think about. I couldn't stop. So it was like it led me to here, so I'm happy. But I know I probably could have prevented it if I was a little more careful. But hey, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like they're all blessings, right? Everything's a blessing. You just don't realize it at the time.
Pretty much. So you like at least the way I know you is like you're always like you're discovering the girls, like because you've discovered a few that I've worked with, uh, in funny stories as well, in funny ways. But like, how does this like? Because you started Nomad after quite a little bit after you left Wilhelmina, right?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, my husband and partner, Damon, actually started Nomad many years ago. I think like 20 years ago.
Oh, wow, okay.
And he was already managing. He was a model with Ford. He was doing quite well as a model, and just didn't have a mother agency, didn't have a manager. So he created his own. He started managing his friends basically,
Okay.
and helping them. And he had a very good sense of business and follow up. And he's quite type A. So he was managing all of his friends, and I think through word of mouth, it kind of kept growing and growing and growing. So when I decided that I was, done with my experience at Wilhelmina and ready to move on and take just to pivot, he said, "Look, you can do whatever you want." He's like, "Of course, I would love for you to come and work with me at Nomad. Um, I would love to have your perspective." He's like, "But if you don't want to, I respect that too." So little by little, I started like just he would ask me my opinion, I would give it. Some of the models that he managed, I also used to work with at Wilhelmina as their agent.
Yeah.
And so I sort of got pulled in, and I realized I still did enjoy that aspect of it. There are parts of being an agent I didn't enjoy, but being a manager, I found it far more rewarding.
Yeah. And it's like you, we've done. I remember we had lunch. Was it at Lavo? You, I, and Keke, and you told me the story
Mhm.
because I know like there's gonna be like once people find out who you are, they're gonna ask about this story and more specifically, Kelsey's.
Yeah, Kelsey's story was so interesting because with social media, we're all on there like surfing and like looking through and like going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I was on
Daily.
Instagram, just kind of like floating through Instagram, and I was looking. I work a lot with Asia, and you know, that's a region that I am passionate about. And I was looking at different shows in the Philippines and different photographers from the Philippines, and saw a picture of Kelsey, and it was like a kind of like a candid shot, backstage shot, and then I was like, okay, so I started kind of backtracking and finding out who she was. and just looking at looking for as many photos as I could find. And I was like, oh, this girl's really beautiful. I couldn't tell how tall she was. You know, she looked a bit on the shorter side, but I just thought it didn't matter. So I reached out to her, sent her a message, and she replied. And she's like, you know, I'm in the Philippines. Like, she was a bit taken aback, but it turned out that her father was American. I lucked out because she had an American passport.
Helps.
And so yeah, it all kind of lined up. I think it was like kismet in a way.
When you're discovering someone, like, and this is probably what like most people are gonna want to know, like, what do you look for? Is there something specific? Like, how do you know that something works? How do you know someone's good? How do you know like someone can actually make it? Like, what is the, I guess we'll call it the it factor, although like the industry has changed so much that that variant goes in many different ways.
Yeah, you know, I think it changes over time. You know, it's evolved. I mean, I think initially it was very shallow when I would scout someone. It would be that I looked at their picture and I thought that they were beautiful, and then that made them model. You know, but as time went on, you know, of course, your taste becomes more refined when you're doing it. And you want to be inspired, and it gets boring just to look at all these perfect people. It's nice and it's easy, yes, and those are no brainers. But then, you know, I was on Instagram looking at this model named Sita Abilan.
Okay.
And she was working, and she was, you know, also another girl, not very tall. She had been working in Milan. I found her while she was living in Spain. She had blue hair. She just had this amazing style. And I thought, oh, I want to work with this girl. So I reached out to her, and she's like, you know, I'm not a successful model in my country or in Milan. Like, you know, she's like, if you think I have a chance, like, yeah, I would love to try. And now she's like a style star, you know, like Soo Joo. So
Really?
I think that was a good example for me of just a feeling of like, this girl has something special. She was different from the other girls. She, through social media, showed who she was, her point of view and her perspective on life and what she was passionate about. And that, coupled with being cool and looking somewhat like a model, inspired me to, you know, to contact her. So I think, yeah, if it's not the looks, or something, you know, physical, then it's definitely something about who they are and what they can show through social media, which for me is amazing.
Once you find someone and she's doing well, like, what do you think makes it a star? What makes someone more established than others when you think about, like, because there's a model and there's the model, you know, kind of like,
Yeah.
it goes beyond just like the pretty face.
You know, I think, of course, it's intelligence and hard work. I mean, I think it's, and being nice. I mean, you know, like, be nice, work hard, and be smart. And I think the last component would be surround yourself with a great team. For those girls, you know, Soo Joo, Coco, these other girls that I've, you know, started or jump-started their careers, it was that they were consummate professionals. Like, they knew how to talk to people. They knew how to be, you know, on time. They knew to not show that they were tired or, you know, moody. Like, you know, I think we're dealing with very young people, and sometimes they're not equipped to have that professionalism right away. Yeah. But what I found with these girls that make it to this level, they have those skill sets at quite a young age, you know, 15, 16, 17. They're already realizing that they can use this, you know, to jump into something bigger.
And like, it kind of guided from there also, because everyone needs a little bit of help and a little bit of guidance, because like,
yeah, my job is to be a coach. You know, it's like a coach and be a dad and a friend, and, you know, and sometimes a teacher or a disciplinarian, to tell them, like, you know, stay focused, don't go off track, or, you know, this is where you could do better. Or I give my opinions on what I think things should look like aesthetically, or, you know, how they should present themselves so that they're authentic to who they are, but still catering to what the industry is looking for. And I think it's just calibrating what I think and blending it with what they think and how they feel.
What would you say the difference between a mother agent art or just being an agent? Like, is there more responsibilities? Is it easier in a way? Just kind of like give me like.
Yeah, I think, you know, because I've been both, right? The difference between a mother agent and an agent or let's say a manager and an agent. The terms are so crazy. There's so many, but in the Hollywood, let's say in the acting world in Hollywood, it's much more clearly defined, and I think we should probably use those terms because they make more sense. Is that the manager is the one, like the mother agent, guiding the talent, and working with the agent to choose which deals to take. For the mother agent, you're there to kind of see the bigger picture. So it's your responsibility to guide which direction it's going to go, to kind of monitor and make sure that the talent you're working with has everything they need to perform well.
Yeah.
And that includes a great agency, great planning, great, great accountants, great lawyers, great, acting agents. So you sort of are like the hub of everything.
Yeah.
It can be frustrating because you're dealing with agents who sometimes can be lazy or unmotivated or not organized. And, sometimes you have to get in there and make sure that the talent is connecting well with the agent that they've been placed with or the agency. And that doesn't always click right away. And as an agent, I think it's hard because you're doing the grind daily of trying to get work and get jobs and make sure that that talent is seen. And more now with casting directors and different people, there's so many middlemen now that agents don't have as much power as they used to have. And back in the day when I was an agent, we would speak directly with photographers, directly with stylists. There were personal relationships. And now there are like 5 people in between you and the photographer. It's
I mean,
crazy.
I'm happy that most of the time I do have the contacts to the agents directly, so it makes things easier. But also, like, as you know, like I've developed some relationships with the girls themselves. So very often, like we just like kind of like, which I wouldn't tell anyone to do that because I think it is more professional for you to reach out to the agent always. And I've always spoken to you whenever I've shot with Kelsey or even I've told you that would be happening. But somehow we develop friendships that eventually ends up being kind of like, I still tell the agents, but I've agreed with Kelsey to shoot with her just because we already like were friends and everything was cool.
Yeah, but this is how things were in the past as well. We would encourage models to build relationships with creative people that they were working with, whether it's a makeup artist, a hair person, a photographer, and and building friendships and building professional long-term relationships. Like these are great things. I think as long as when you become friends with someone, you're not going to take advantage of them, hopefully. But generally, the models that have good relationships with other creatives in the field, it's people that they trust. So they're not going to say yes unless they trust you. And then if there is something that comes down the line that requires some, clarification contractually or legally, then yes, that's when we can step in. But otherwise, I'm all for models working with people that they trust and they know and they feel that they can create great work with. Of course, they'll reach out to me and say, hey, is this okay? I'm like, yeah, do it. Like, build that relationship.
Oh my God, I have so much coffee today. I can't breathe. Hold on, I'm gonna have more.
Such a New Yorker. Such a New Yorker.
By the way, I've never drank coffee before Pier 59. Never in my life.
You're Eastern European. Shouldn't you be drinking tea?
But again, I didn't drink it until my late 20s when I was working at the Pier. And it started doing Fashion Week because they'll have me going there like 8 a.m. and I was leaving at like 3 a.m. the next day. So it was like, what, like
that's hardcore.
Yeah. So at that point, it was either that or cocaine, but I don't do drugs. So it's kind of like, I literally was having 8, 9 coffees a day at the Pier. I was constantly like back and forth, coffee. Wintertime, hot coffee, summertime, cold coffee. But I was having like 9 coffees a day. I actually ended up having like an acid reflux on my stomach because of having too much.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, because like
I don't drink coffee.
Man, it got me because I love orange juice and I love coffee. So like it got to a point where I'm having orange juice and coffee every single morning, but I'll have like 5
like acid. Coffees. You're just like drinking acid all day.
I'm drinking acid the entire time, and like about a couple of years ago, my stomach just exploded. Like I kept on getting like bloated for no reason because I'm like, I haven't eaten anything. Why is my stomach going so crazy? And I ended up being in a hospital because of it because I had like 5 coffees in the morning plus like 3 cups of orange juice. And
that's
my body just
crazy.
Crashed. Yeah. So now I have like 2, 3 coffees a day, but I haven't touched orange juice. There's 2 more, which will be like the changing industry of how it's changed from the time where you started to now? Because like since I started, it changed dramatically.
Yeah, I
I can
mean,
imagine what it is for you because you've been in it for what, 20 years?
yeah, longer actually. You know, I think it's changed for the better. You know, I think that there's so many things that I'm happy about now for the industry. I mean, when I started, we would get casting calls that would say no blacks, no Asians, no redheads, and they would write it down.
They
You
were
know, and it
writing
was
it
very,
down.
yeah, it would be like sent to us, and it would be very like explicit. There was no sugarcoating it. You know, they just didn't have value. You know, and you know, there were very few Asian models. You know, and the representation was just very poor. And you know, I think the amount of sexual harassment the models had to experience on set was, you know, horrifying. And the things that were just accepted and you know, or just people turned a blind eye toward. You know, like these models had to deal with a lot of crap. So now I feel that the industry has evolved. I mean, in a better way. Yes, you know, I think that we missed the era of the supermodel, but now we have different types of supermodels. You know, we have plus size models. We have models that are over 40. We have models that are under 5'7". We have models that are you know, have disabilities. The representation is phenomenal. It's not where we want it to be, but now it's cracked open. You know, working with trans models for me is exciting. You know, and the representation for me is a great development in our industry. And that's where I want it to go in the next 5 years. I want it to keep growing. I want it to expand. You know, what people think of as beautiful.
Okay.
And as much as I'd like for us to start running in that direction, I think right now we're just kind of crawling.
The only place where I would, and that's my personal opinion, I would be very careful with going is into obesity. When you look at someone who isn't healthy, promoting that as
Yeah, I think,
desired look,
you
I
know,
think. Go ahead.
no, I see. I get your point. I totally get your point. I think it's like the same as, you know, you don't want to see a model that's too thin.
Exactly, both ways.
You
I don't
know,
want to see someone where I can see ribs, but I also don't want to see someone who is like
yeah.
morbidly
And
obese
I
to the point
think
to where.
it's a matter of, you know, what's healthy for that body and that, you know. So I grew up in Hawaii, and I'm Hawaiian, and my Polynesian family, Hawaiians are bigger. You know, like look at all the football players. Look at, you know, Hawaiian women, Polynesian women, sometimes, you know, can be a lot curvier, a lot bigger than their Western counterparts.
Mhm.
So I think that body wise, you know, also the representation of ethnicity and body, and you know what's healthy for each type of body. It's not just, you know, endemic to ethnicity, but just, you know, when someone's healthy, you know. So
No, no, no. Yeah, again, I'm gonna bring it back to like I don't mind when someone's curvier and healthy. My problem becomes with there is no healthy like option to where someone's over 300 pounds at 5'7". You know, like at that
yeah,
point,
yeah,
I don't think we call that health. Just like if someone's 5'10" and they're 85 pounds, that's also not healthy. Like in ways that it should not be promoted in any way or sort.
well, I think we need to do a whole other show about this because this makes me very excited. I'm fascinated by the idea of, look, I think even, and this is probably, you know, this is probably a bit incendiary, but I feel like even if you're not healthy, um, you still have the right to think that you're beautiful and to like yourself.
I agree.
You know,
When I
so
say like I don't support them being called a model. I don't want to say like I'm taking their humanity and their beauty out. I think they
agreed.
should.
No, I understand what you're saying. I think that there's
I agree.
context.
They should find themselves beautiful. I feel like they should be encouraged to feel the way they want to feel by themselves. I also feel like they should seek help. Again, on both spectrums, talking very skinny, very overweight, to where they can be better for their own self, for their health, for their family, for everyone else. That's my only. That's my only thing. Like I don't want. I just don't like when someone forces you to like something and calls you names because you don't necessarily approve of their life choices. And if you're being
Yeah.
healthy, if you're eating well and you're exercising, and you're a larger person, no problem. I have the problem when someone sits on the couch and does nothing. When they know they have a problem, but they force people to call them beautiful without them actually doing something for it. I think that's my only problem was like perhaps it's more of like a laziness type of I have problem with laziness rather than the body itself.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between glorification and representation.
Yes.
So I think that if we kind of parse those two ideas from one another and say like, I like it that, we're seeing all types of trans beauty, or, it doesn't mean that that's everyone needs to be trans, or for me to see Polynesian beauty represented in media. That doesn't mean that, all Hawaiians are curvy and, it look a certain way. But
I
I
know
think
a
it's
Hawaiian.
nice.
I know a blonde Hawaiian that's not very curvy at all. Very
Yeah,
tall.
yeah, exactly. So I think that there's just what's going to be fun about what we do is having different types of people to have as clients and
Yeah.
to photograph and to be creative with and to collaborate with is going to guarantee us job security. As the idea of what is beautiful and how we can represent our interpretations of beauty. Um, and let me be very clear with representation and not glorification. That it will, I think, change the landscape of how people define beauty, and let it be a little bit more elastic, and also be more flexible in letting us show what we like. So if you want to shoot sexy girls, it's nothing bad about it. That's a personal preference,
Yeah.
because there are other people shooting curvy girls, or there are other people shooting, different types of beauty, what they find beautiful. So yeah, I
I
think
feel
that
like that's also. Go ahead. I'll finish after you finish.
no, I was just going to say, and the more chances that we have for everyone to express what they find to be beautiful, the less we're going to nitpick on each other that, oh, you're only shooting one type and you're only doing this.
So well put. Because like that was that's I guess that's been my issue as of lately, because people point fingers and accuse me of not being um, diverse enough in sizes per se, and I feel like I'm not doing this because I want to like deny someone a chance to be represented or be beautiful. It just I shoot things that I find myself attractive. Like in order for me to be inspired as an artist, I have to work with something that inspires me. I'm not saying those people shouldn't be represented or working with other people. I'm just working with the type of women that I prefer, because I can always throw that back at them and say like, I don't shoot men. Does that make me
Yeah.
sexist towards men because I don't work with men and I only work with women? Because I can throw that back. But I just feel like as an artist, as a photographer, we should be able to work with whoever we want, however we want, and be respected for it. Because there's so many other photographers who work with the kind of people that those people are exactly looking for. And I feel like that's been like an issue I've faced as of recently. I'll get like hate mail, like, oh, you don't do enough of this or you don't do enough of that. I'm like, look, there's
Yeah, I mean, I think there is this idea, there's this idea of not, of almost like shaming people,
pretty much.
for what they're passionate about. And I think that, but also having a YouTube channel like this or having a conversation about it shows people how you're thinking about it, and, allows for people to see you as a fully formed thinking artistic person. That yes, and who knows, maybe 5 years from now you'll get bored with this and you'll want to explore other ways to be creative.
Maybe
But
you
it's
should.
your journey. It's what you at least you're having the conversation, and that's not much. That there are a lot of people who don't even want to have the conversation.
I feel like yeah, having a conversation and understanding both sides definitely helps. Opening up the playing field to where everyone understands why I feel this way or why I shoot a certain way. Like I recently I had this one really mad account that everyone I shoot is half naked, and they're like, "Why can't you shoot landscapes?" I literally have the screenshots of that. Like this girl goes like, "Why just another naked girl? Why can't you shoot a nice landscape or something?" I'm like, because my followers wouldn't want to see a landscape, and I'm not a landscape photographer. If you want to follow a landscape photographer, plenty of them out there. Like, why do you have the need to come on my page and tell me why there's no landscapes on it, or to like
Yeah,
question
and this is the thing. It's like we have power now as viewers. If you don't like it, take your support to someone that you find fits your values, and speak with what you view, and who you support and what you buy. And I think this helps change. If you want the world to change, then be active about that.
And if in the same time though, like I feel like people don't follow what they like. They follow things that they don't like so they can bitch about it online. And that's what kind of gets me. It's like never
Yeah,
once in my life.
the trolling is hardcore.
Never once in my life that I'll go on a page that I didn't like and wrote a comment how much I don't like it. Not once in my life. It's this person's artistry. I shouldn't have no power of what they're doing and how they choose to live their life, their career, and anything else.
You know, this idea that there was a trend for a while about real women, you know, that models weren't real women. I'm like, the last time I checked, the women that I worked with are real.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, and I think
that
that
gets me so bad.
their experiences growing up in high school, being bullied for not, you know, not having any breasts, being too tall, being bone thin, people saying they were anorexic, you know, like standing a full foot above other people in their class, you know, like they go through their own horrific experiences sometimes not fitting in. And I think it's hard for anyone to fit in, but I think to invalidate their whole existence as a real woman, you know, is really, really myopic, and quite honestly, it can be disrespectful in how some people phrase it in this trolling.
Many instances, including like when Kelsey and I, you know, like we shot this thing that Victoria's Secret picked up. And I remember when they posted on Instagram and I went to the comments and there were so many negative comments because Kelsey was skinny. And she's not even like a skinny girl. She's in great shape.
Mhm.
But there will be so many comments from other women saying, look at this, just another skinny bitch. It's not a real woman. And I'm like, how is she, like, what makes you more woman than she is? How do you decide that? How do you, who are you?
Yeah, I mean, it's this comparative culture, and I think there's another model that I work with named Christiana, and she was on America's Next Top Model. She's a very body positive spokesperson, but she has some great insight into that. You know, like she's not a size 12; she's in between a plus size and a straight size model.
Okay.
But you know, and we talk about this a lot of like, what does it mean to be, you know, to be judging other women? It's like, accept all types, all body types. Yes, some body types get more representation in media, and we're working to change that, you know, but you don't have to hate on someone so viciously to prove that you're valid.
I see more hate towards fit women rather than the other way around. And I find it funny because if you're fighting for equality for all women type, why
Yeah.
you're attacking that one type? Like you're the ones
Yeah,
fighting
in
for
some
equality.
ways I feel like it's maybe I wouldn't say it's misdirected rage, but it's just it could be utilized more effectively in building something that you love rather than tearing down something that you hate.
I wanna
Yeah,
talk-
like I wasn't hating on, you know, Caucasian models when I was an agent
No,
because you know, I didn't see Hawaiian models on the runway or on the cover of Vogue. You know, it wasn't like I saw representation for what I grew up with. But I thought, okay, well, you know what, I'm gonna brick by brick lay the foundation for what I think is beautiful and for the types of beauty that I want to see represented. You know, when Giselle was starting, they thought her boobs were too big, she was too tanned, and her nose was too big. You know, and like suddenly she becomes a beauty standard. You know, Alessandra Ambrosio, when I started working with her in the very beginning of her career, people thought that she looked too Asian. You know, so
wait,
it's
hold
like,
on, go back. People thought she looked too Asian.
yes, yes. So when she was in the elite model look contest for Brazil,
Okay,
she didn't win.
okay.
And we brought her to New York, and I sent her around to see people. And the client that responded the most positively was Guess. You know, but outside of that, everyone was like, "Oh, she looks really Asian. Like we don't know where to categorize her because of her eyes." And granted, like now this seems ridiculous, but back
Yeah.
then she was immediately pegged as like ethnically ambiguous, and where can we market her? I don't know if it's going to work.
How did you overcome that with her? Because I assume like you had something to do
You
with.
know, success breeds success, and many times you just need one person's approval, and then it sets off a domino effect. I mean, with Coco, it was Stephen Meisel. You know, with Alessandra, it was Guess. With you know, so it's just this is the weird thing about culture and fashion and media in general, right? It's like one cool person gives you the thumbs up, and then like sheep, everyone else follows.
It kind of like it rains from there. I've always said this to girls because I've seen it over and over, you know, with multiple girls that I know throughout my short 4-year career. But they'll say like, "Oh, this agency didn't like me. I must not have it." And I'm just like, first of all, you got to understand, like some agents don't have imagination. Period. They don't
True.
see anything.
A
It's
lot
sad
of
to
agents
say,
actually.
huh?
A
It's a lot
lot.
of them.
There were a
It's a
lot.
lot of them because I see it daily. Because multiple times I've said like, um, I want to work with a girl, especially like I'm not even gonna like mention her name, but she's doing very well right now. But she's supposed to be signed with IMG, and nothing happened. She almost was on the verge of quitting her career. She moved to a different agency and she booked Victoria's Secret right away. And just no one appreciated her at the first agency, but someone saw her at the second one, and then from that point, everyone booked her. And I always say this, like, don't take opinions so personal. Very
Yeah.
many of those people don't have imagination. They don't know what they look for. You literally have to put them on in front of their face to see it, and they still don't see it.
Every agency, every agent, we've all missed it, you know, at some point. We've all missed someone, and then someone else sees something special in them. And then, yeah, it's the idea of being able to have a vision and a passion for that individual that you're working with.
It's funny to me because I've seen it, especially like, what is it, 2 years ago, when I shot like all the new faces and then they all booked VS, and I was kind of laughing because like a lot of those girls were like, everyone kind of like,
Your pictures helped. Your pictures helped.
probably. I remember when the first time I shot Lorena, her agent goes like, because I sent him a preview, and he goes like, "Oh, we're gonna send them to Victoria's Secret. Can you please send those photos because we want to send up with the photos you just took?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, I definitely want that." So I like to think that they help, maybe even if it's like a little bit.
It was funny with Lorena because she was at Wilhelmina at the time, and I really wanted her to be in my division, and she was on the commercial board, and they wouldn't let her be on my board because she was making so much money. Yes, it was a huge I don't even know if I should be saying this, but it was a huge internal battle. She probably doesn't even know this, but and I was pushing and
hasn't told me
pushing.
about this.
I was pushing for her, and I wanted to be her agent, and they were like, "No, she's already in this other commercial division, and if you take her away, you know, you're being a spoiled brat, getting what you always want, and you can't just pick and choose what you want from other people's boards." And I'm like, "It's not about that. It's about giving this girl a better opportunity to do more things." And they wouldn't let me have her in my division, which was so annoying.
Which division were you in?
I was on the editorial board, and she was on the commercial board, on the direct board.
And they would not let her go into the editorial.
Yep.
And then she moved to next afterwards.
Yes, and I was like, see what happens? By then, I was already gone from Wilhelmina, but I watched it go down when she left, and I was like, oh, that's what happens. You know, like you didn't offer her more opportunities, and you didn't get to let her stretch beyond the box you put her in, which again is part of being a good agent. And lo and behold, she left.
I mean, she made right choices. Clearly, she's doing amazing now.
Yeah, she's beautiful, and she's got a great platform, and she's sweet and a hard worker. So
I actually can't wait for her to see this.
I'm happy for her success.
I actually can't wait for her to see this, just because this will be funny for her to know what was happening while she didn't even.
The behind the scenes, right? There are all these behind the scenes.
I'm like, I'll call her, be like, by the way, I know something about you that you don't even know. Yeah, that would be great.
I don't even know if she knows who I am, actually, because we didn't really get to interact with one another back in the days of Wilhelmina.
But you wanted her? That's funny.
Yeah, badly. She was so gorgeous. How could you not want to work with that girl?
I'll tell you a story. Like when I started, like not when I started, like at the pier, but when I quit, things obviously weren't going well. And I talked about this in my documentary, but that's not coming out for quite a while still. But I started listening to The Secret, the book. But I got the audiobook because like I'll go to the gym and just play it as I'm working out. Then I go to sleep and I'll play it as I'm going to sleep, because I know that it actually can affect your brain more if you listen to things as you're sleeping as well, to get into like the mentality of doing things that the book tells you, so you can get better. But one of the chapters told you that you should make a mood board of your life, of what you want to accomplish.
I remember this. Yeah.
And actually, as the background of my phone, I put 3 girls that I wanted to work with at that time. And it was Meredith Mickelson, because I saw her on Instagram. I thought she was amazing. Lorena and Danny Braga. And it was funny because I made the mood board. So it was like basically like my phone and like 3 pictures, one on top of another. And 6 days, Roman, after I made that mood board, Gina Barone called me from the Lions, and she goes like, "Hey, we have our girl Meredith in town. Would you like to shoot her?" And I'm like, ugh.
You're like, hell yeah.
I looked at my phone. I'm like, come on. And it was funny because like we shot. I went to the Lions office. We met with Meredith. We shot the day after. I literally like edited those pictures as soon as I got home because I was so excited. And then I was like, I'm gonna hit up Lorena now. And literally, like, I hit up on Instagram the next day. She got back to me. She goes like, yeah, I'd love to work with you. And she goes like, can you just talk to my agent? I'm like, yeah, no problem. I hit him up within 10 minutes. He goes like, yeah, how's tomorrow? I'm like, stop. I'm like, how does that even work? There's no way this little book told me to do a mood board and all of it just started happening. It's not real life. Come on.
Yeah, it's the power of intention. Yeah, but I think, but this is the wonderful thing about social media, of being able to connect, right? I mean, yes, you can connect lightly or, informally, and then you can formalize it through, a more proper protocol. But it does allow this flexibility to be creative more quickly, and to, it kind of removes the fear a little bit of like, because you never know. I mean, I've had people reach out to me. I spoke to a guy who's a Digitech that reached out to me yesterday and just said, hey, can I call you? I want to talk about the state of the industry and where we're going. And what are your thoughts on it? And I don't know this guy, but we follow each other on Instagram. And yeah, it was a great conversation. It was a great way to connect. So this is the wonder of how our business is evolving.
I do.
Wait, so what's next for you? Like, what's next? What's on the horizon for you?
I don't know.
What's your 5-year plan?
5 years? Jesus. How about this year? I hope things go back to open. That would be amazing. Second, LA. I think LA is gonna be a big step. I think like for the way my photography is going, swim and just like outdoor editorial stuff is what I'm really looking forward to. I'm excited to be able to just be outside. Like the dream was always been like different beaches every week, different shoots. If that could happen.
Yep. Sounds like California. The light here is great.
Pretty much. However, like since this YouTube started, I have firmly enjoyed making film, like meaning actually like short films about different girls. I don't know if you ever watched my YouTube stuff.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
A lot of it is like 4 to 5 minute little short films, and the girl narrates something that actually means something to her, like to add a story to whatever we're doing. And I think like the more I'm doing them, the more I'm creating stories. Like I'm actually starting to do like storyboards of the things I'm doing next. So it creates more of like, there's a beginning, there's a middle, there's evolving on the character, and there's an end. And so I'm getting into that so much. I bought a drone, I bought so much video equipment so I can actually record even more from what I did before. So I'm looking to do more of that too, like short documentaries. It's kind of like I see me evolving into more than just photos, and I actually quite enjoy it.
So you're going to move to LA. You're going to be a cinematographer and director.
Well, it's funny, by the way. It's funny because apparently I got a IDMB page. I didn't make it. Someone else made it for me.
What? No, actually, you know what's so funny? That happened to me too. I have an IMDb and I didn't make it.
I didn't make it. I just saw one day. I was Googling my name just to see what pops up when it happens. Obviously, there's one picture of me, like a million photos of different women. But when you go to just scroll through the links because I want to see what comes up first. So Instagram, my website, my YouTube, whatever. And there's IDMB. I can't even pronounce it. IDMB page, and it says cinematographer, filmmaker, and it's as the credits they're giving me the video I made with Cindy Mello. It's called The Rain. It's like a 6-minute video of like different like anchors from TV like talking in the background about rain and storms. And there's like I record a bunch of like rain around LA, and then Cindy being all home alone and stuff. And they put that as my first film, and I'm just like, who did this?
It's a sign. It's a sign.
Who did this? Yeah, I'm trying to be different. I'm trying to do a little bit more than what I see elsewhere. And like those interviews also, I think, very informational, very good for people who actually want to learn. Because I'm sure you get those questions all the time. I'm sure you get those in your request folder all the time. Like, how does one become a model?
Yeah, a lot.
They can actually get to a point where they can sit there and watch, as opposed to waiting for a 3-row responses text message. Yeah. But again, thank you, by the way, for making it happen. I know we've talked about it for a year, but
we finally did it. We got it done.
Although, like the one time we had lunch outside, could have looked awesome because it was like pretty and nice. Although, like eating burgers and fries probably would have not looked best on video.
Wait, well, if this edit sucks, we can go for lunch again. We can do it again when you're back in LA.
We can always do part 2. I'm not opposed to that at all.
I'm totally down. Let's do it.
Thank you again so much.
You're welcome.
And I'll text you soon when this is ready in a couple of days.
Can't wait. Have
Bye.
fun. Bye.